Good morning, everyone. So today we'll be talking about building and scaling API using API Gateway and Lambda. So you might be wondering why are we talking about API? Everything now is API driven, starting from networking, compute, storage, data, services. Everything now is being consumed using API. So as a network engineer or as a cloud engineer or as a solutions architect working in the cloud, you must be able to understand how API works. What service can you use to build and scale your API? For example, maybe in terms of high demand, how do you ensure that your API people are not getting like an error response, or maybe you are not getting full utilization. Maybe it goes to a point your API is throttling and all of that use cases. So that's why you must be able to understand how an API works, how you do the routing, how you even expose the service to your customers and all of that. So that's what we'll be discussing today in this session. So this is just about me for people joining today as the first time. So let's go to this topic. So what we'll be discussing today, understanding API. So we'll be bringing out an analogy just to buttress our points as regarding the API. And API means application programming interface. We'll be talking about AWS API Gateway. So that's a service in AWS that's responsible for building APIs. We'll be discussing about Lambda. Lambda is a complete service and it's a serverless as well. So we'll be doing like an hands-on project. So we'll be building an API for a particular company, and as well we'll do a lot of hands-on like implementations as regarding the API, and those also we'll be integrating three services together. We'll be integrating Lambda, DynamoDB, and API Gateway. So now let me tell you something. If you're wondering, you're a cloud engineer, you're a network engineer, you're a solutions architect, you must understand most of AWS services, especially the compute service, the database service, the storage service, and the networking service. Those are the fundamentals you need to understand, and you should understand how all of them integrate together. I get to my point. So for today, we'll be explaining and taking us through the integrations between those services, how they work, and all of that. So I think last session we talked about private networking. So from your EC2 instance to your S3 buckets to your SQS and also to other services in AWS. So today we'll be talking more about an API, how it integrates to the database service, to the serverless, which is a complete service as well, and to the API service. So that's what today is going to be, like a full practical answer. So let's continue. What's an API? An API is actually a set of rules that allow different software applications to communicate with each other. So for example, now I'm talking to you the same way we have IP protocol. If an IP address wants to communicate with an IP address, they must be on the same IP address and all of that. So they must have an IP address, just like set of rules and protocols. That's how applications communicate today. So now, this modern days, nowadays, everything, even aside from application, devices, compute devices, Dell servers, UCS servers, networking devices, and all of that, they communicate. You can talk to them using API. So before it was majorly applications, but now with the area we are going now, a lot of services. There is no OEM that will provide or manufacture a device now that won't have a REST API. So it's very important for you to be able to understand API. It's very, very important. And what does this API do? It's just bridge between systems. It enables them to exchange data and functionality. So that's literally what an API means. So in an API, you have a client, you have a request, and you have a response. I get in it. So a client is the person that is requesting for the API. So that's why you have your request and you have the response. Those are like the features of an API. So you have a request needs to be initiated, a response needs to be given back to the request owner. So that's where we have different API status code. We have ones, we have twos, we have threes, we have fours, and we have five. When you have ones, means that it's just like an informational message. Twos is when you have two, maybe 200, 201, those are like your response is okay. You're getting a good response. I get it. When you have three, that means like maybe the device has the URL has been moved or something. When you have four, maybe 401, 403, 404, and all of that, that means you're having a kind of a client error. It could be authorization, it could be authentication. That's four. They call it 400s or four errors. Do you understand? So when you have five means you can have 503. All of us know 503, server, gateway error, internet server error. So anything five means is a server error. It's happening on the server side. You know, we are talking about two things here. We're talking about the client, and we're talking about the server. So the API is just the guy in between both of those systems. So when you have 400, maybe 401, 402, 403, 401, and 403, and 404. And those are the common ones. So when you add those kind of 400s error, it means that, okay, it's an error from the client. It could be authentication, it could be authorization, and all of that. But 500 means, okay, this guy, the issue is coming from the server. I mean, the server is not available, and all of that. So, and you have endpoints. Endpoints are what the specific parts where the API is can be accessed. So it's just like a part. Some people call it URI, universal resource identifier. But if you are browsing, your normal browsing, we call it URL, universal resource locator. Or in terms of API, we call it URI, universal resource identifier, because there will be a particular identifier at the end that you will need to be able to access. For example, your query to your API depends on the paths. If you want to access users, you want to even access to specific users and all of that. So that's why people build something we call a Swagger documentation that shows this sets of URI, how you query them and all of that. So we'll still get to it in our following session. Now let's see, these are the methods. You know, I told you like API is just like a set of rules. So it has a method. So method is, okay, how do I access this guy? So get is you retrieve the data, post is you create a new data. Put means that you update an existing data. Do you understand? Delete means that we all know it's just to remove the data. So, and how to authenticate, you can authenticate using tokens, using keys, and using OAuth. OAuth 2.0, that's another form of authentication. But now the major ones, we have the username and password. That's you put your username and password. We also have when you have your bearer token, that's where you have your token. Sometimes you can even have your API key. And the last one is OAuth 2. OAuth 2. We have OAuth 2.0. So that's where, for example, let me explain that OAuth 2. For example, now you want to log in to Facebook. You want to log in to Twitter. You know, let's say you want to log in maybe to ChatGPT. Let's give it an instance. So, and you don't have a ChatGPT account, then you can use your Gmail to authenticate into ChatGPT. So those kind of authentication coming along is OAuth 2.0. That's OAuth. That's OAuth. So from an application to an application, you've been the client taking the request from the authorization server to the authentication server and all of that. So that's the new form. That's the new form in which way applications communicate, authorize themselves between each other. And the format of the data. So, you know, it's a set of rules. So, and these are the rules involved. So, it's either in a JSON format or an XML. So now let me now bring an analogy. So let me now bring an analogy. So let's use a restaurant. You maybe you just enter the restaurant. You want to get your food. Are you getting me? So you getting the food, you get to the restaurant, you particularly, you are just the client, you want to eat food. I get my point. So That food is your response, but you as a whole, that's your request. I get it. So now you get to the restaurant, they give you a seat or something. So you sit down, they give you a menu. That menu is the API documentation. That will shows you, okay, if you want to order maybe snacks and all of that, this is where you see it and all of that. They'll give you the menu, go through it. That's what is called the API documentation. When you place the order, that's when you now do an API request. Maybe you do a get, or you do a post, or you do a put, or you do a delete. So those requests is an API request. Maybe you order for a food. I'm just trying to bring an analogy that is very close to what we understand as regards API. So the waiter takes your request. So the waiter is the API. It's the guy between you and the food, which means the API is the guy between the client and the server. So automatically in this scenario, we're using a restaurant scenario. So in this scenario, the waiter is the API. So it collects your request and send it to the kitchen. The kitchen is the server. I get my point. So the waiter is not the one that will do the cooking and all of that. So the waiter will just take your request. Okay, you order for maybe 5 snacks, one bottle of Coke and all of that. That's the request from the client. So the API, which is the waiter, will take your request and then prepare your food and send your request to the kitchen. So the kitchen is your server. So once it gets it, it sends it to it. The server now gives back with the API. So the waiter now brings back your order. That's your API response. So it's the server that will send the response to the server will send the response to the API. The API will now send it to you back. So it's just that the API is just the guy in between, which is just the waiter. I don't know if you understand my point. Do you want me to come again, or you understand? So at the end of the day, you can see that what the API is doing, the API is just like a middleman in between the client and the server. People at the kitchen doesn't know you. They don't know anything about you. What the people at the kitchen knows is they just know that, okay, the waiter bring a request to them, and they'll process the request based on what the order show or what the waiter has given to them at the kitchen. And you don't even know people working at the kitchen. You just know the waiter. Okay, waiter, I'm still waiting for my order and all of that. Do you understand? So that's literally how API works. You, the client. So the client cannot be anybody. The client, in terms of application, it might be users. It might be another application taking a request through an API to another application. For example, now, Paystack API, Flutterwave API, people integrate it, payment gateway API, InterSwitch API, all those payment gateway APIs, people put it into their applications. I get my point. Also, we also have locations, Google Map API. People put all these API into the applications just for them to get one or two information. So now let's continue. So now, in terms of, this is how API now works. So now let's turn to AWS, because that's what we're talking about. So the service that you can use to create, deploy, and manage API in AWS is API Gateway. So it's just act the same way we've said, just act like a front door to your applications that enables people, your clients. It might be an application, it might be web, it might be a user self that wants to get some information, trying to communicate to the backend. Who are the backend? We have the AWS EC2 instance, we have the Lambda, and we have the database. I get it. So the API gateway is just like a guy in between you, the clients. It can be a web app, it can be a user, it can be anything. It can even be a mobile app trying to communicate to a backend service. What are our backend service? We have the Lambda, we have the EC2 instance, and we have the database. So I'm talking about AWS now. So let's continue. So what does API gateway does? The way I've said, it's manage the request, route API, the right backend. For example, now maybe I'm going to show you something towards the next slide. about routing API calls to different backend service. So, and also the multiple API types, you have the REST API, with the WebSockets, you have the HTTP APIs as well. And authorization and authentication, you can authorize it in terms of, okay, this is maybe you are trying to create a job with a job with token or like an API key and all of that, or IAM, maybe you only want a particular service to be able to access your API. You know, all those kind of customized access policy that can be done using IAM. So Cognito is another a security service on AWS as well in terms of managing user access and all of that. So now this is what I'm talking about, the routing. You can see that, for example, now www.junior. Should we use Junior? Maybe this is another app. Maybe Junior. I think everybody knows Junior. So you can see that when you're working with microservices, when you're working with microservices, the API gateway, this is the web or an app that wants to get some information, which means this is the client. So this client just called the API. All the routing is already on the API. So maybe the person wants to go to catalog. The API gateway will be routed to the direct service that has the catalog, so that you'll be able to, okay, this is my catalog, this is what I have, and all of that. And also, maybe you want to access the shopping cart. There's an API responsible for the shopping cart. So you can see that this has already given us a kind of what we call a loosely coupled system. So for example, now, if these microservices, they can be Lambda, and microservices are Lambda as serverless, or they can even be containers, pods. So this guy, you can see that these microservices, each one, the routing is being done on the API gateway. For example, www.jumia.com/catalog. The API will get the request and send it to the right path, route the call to the catalog service. Maybe you want to do a discount, Jumia/discount, it takes you right to the right service. So all these guys, these guys are services. They are computing service. Computing service, we have a database. That's why you see database is attached to each of them, so that we keep your record, so that it won't be just stateless, because these guys are stateless. If you don't have a database for it, you'll be able to keep your information. I get it. So this is just an analogy of how the API gateway works and how it routes from the client to the server. So you can know that these guys are the servers. This is the API gateway, and this is the client app. So do you have any question? Because of time. Or are we together?
Yeah, I have a question, Sulaiman.
Okay.
Yeah. So the API gateway, is it just a single instance that is routing all the requests to the catalog, shopping cart, discount ordering, and others? Is it the API? Is it just?
API gateway is a fully managed service on AWS. When you call something is a service, something the same way you have an EC2 instance, same way you have VPN, transit gateway, and all of that, is a service that is fully managed by AWS. So we are going to get to the practical hands-on. I will show you how an API gateway works and all of that. So just see it as a fully managed service. It's a service where on this service you can now create routing to the right backend services or to the right application that you want to fit to. So all these things is something we're going to do in the next session. So let's keep going. So now we've talked about API gateway. Now let's talk about Lambda. So what the reason why Lambda is interesting is that Lambda is serverless. It works based on trigger. I don't know if anyone is preparing for AWS exams here, but when you come talking about compute, there is something we call about the pay-as-you-go pricing, and something we call the serverless parts. So these two instances are the one that, okay, once you're on it, you are using it, you'll be charging you. So for example, you spin up an EC2 instance, you are running Apache on it and all of that. So that guy is constantly running, right? That's your EC2 instance. But for Lambda is a serverless service. It works based on trigger. You need to call it. you need to call it for it to work, and it's work based on the compute time. For example, now, I want to request for maybe I want this Lambda function to work when people update their picture to my account or to my website. So when you update your picture, you upload your picture. Okay, I'm going to save your picture and send it to my database or to my storage device. So that's the only time I want the Lambda to work. So that Lambda is just a serverless service. It only works based on triggers. You don't over provision, and you just put your code there. Maybe you're writing a Python code. That's where your backend is. So instead of putting your backend on an EC2 instance that will be consistently running, you can put it on Lambda. That's why they call it. We call it serverless architecture. So you can maybe at your time and check what serverless means and all of that. So everything you just need to do is just put your code there and put your triggers and integrations. Once there is time, or once anybody initiates a request to your Lambda, it works, and that's all. It works based on Lambda. Don't worry, we're going to see everything how it works and all of that. So you don't pay for idle time. That's why some companies just all they do, their complete architecture is on serverless. Like I think I was reading a company that's most of what they do, like it's a very big company actually, but they are into, I think it's the broker systems and all of that. The company, all the architecture is on serverless, so they don't pay for what they are not using. Maybe for example now, maybe all these cloud deck and all of that. If assume they are using serverless, it's going to work only when people want to order. I get my point. It's at the point where you also wonder that the serverless will just run out. It's all of that. So serverless also is also another means of optimizing your costs, especially if you know how to architect your infrastructure based on that. So I think Yusuf has a question.
Yeah, with what you just said now, that means at what instance or at what scenario do you think somebody can need EC2? Because according to the advantage now, I think most people want to go for the serverless. So does that mean to make this EC2 readily irrelevant, or people to want to move away from it?
Okay.
Or are they still using it?
Yeah, people are still using it. So that's why I said it depends on how you architect your architecture. If your architecture is like an event-driven infrastructure, event-driven in terms of, okay, it only works when people need you. For example, now you have a website. Your website needs to keep running every time. I get it. So that's when the EC2 instance. So if you want something like a persistent service running, but when you have something like event-driven, maybe it's when people need it that people access it. So instead of now, even some people, there's some architecture that you will see that they will have EC2 instance, they'll still have Lambda because of some event-driven cases where they just say, okay, when a notification pops up, okay, once, or maybe when someone subscribe or once someone subscribes to their newsletter, there's a Lambda that sends an email automatically to your email. You know, this kind of process, event-driven process that is one time. So that's when people use Lambda and all of that. So when I'm thinking about Lambda, I don't want us to take time because it's a very long call today. So when I'm talking about Lambda, we have trigger, we have execute, and we have response. Trigger is okay. What will make the API to trigger? You know, I've said it before. It can be an API request. It can be an S3 file upload. Maybe somebody upload a data or something, or an image to your S3 bucket, a file to an S3 bucket. So once that one is done, it creates something automatically. Or maybe there's a change in your DynamoDB, you're going to get a DynamoDB as well. So once it's triggered, so after it triggered, next thing it executes. What are you executing? That's your backend. That's where you have your code. It supports, I think it supports a lot of runtime. Support Python, JS, Go, Rust. Support a lot of function code. So that's function code is what you want to execute. Maybe you want an API request is made, you want it to get information from one backend or from one API, or you want it to create maybe a service, or you want to create any other thing, or you want to send an SQS, a distributed messaging service, to a subscriber on a topic when someone triggered the Lambda. So exit can be anything. That's where your developer comes in. Anything that you want. It's just the function logic, your business logic, how you want your business to look like. And the response, at the end of your in your code, you have a response body. What do you expect? Are you returning the data? Or are you updating the database? Or are you even using that to trigger another service? I get it. So that's the three parts of the Lambda service. So this is what we want to do today. So we want to do API gateway, want to do Lambda, and want to do DynamoDB. So you can see something here, an IAM role. So what does an IAM role mean? I think I've explained in consecutive classes before. So it means that this Lambda is going to have an IAM role in terms of what we call authorization. So this guy will assign a role that will enable this guy to access API gateway and also to access DynamoDB. I get to my point. So this Lambda you're going to attach an IAM role to it. An IAM is identity and access management. So we're going to assign an IAM role to this guy. So these users, it can be an application, it can be users that wants to get an API. So what's this project about? So we are creating an API for a movie. I don't know. I'm just trying to use something very similar, familiar to us. So we are creating like a MovieDB API, a movie database API. So people query the API. Okay, I want to query a movie. Okay, I want to know the title. I want to know the rating. I want to know the year and all of that. So we are using an API. So it could be another application. Maybe another application can also integrate to our API as well. Maybe there's a way they need to input it. I don't know if you use Prime. Prime integrates to IMDb API. So when you are watching a movie on Prime, you'll be seeing the profile of some artists on the screen. So just like an integration to those API. So we are doing, I don't want to do something like this so that, okay, people can integrate to us, they can query or get some movies, dates, the year, the rating, and all of that. So let's just say that the applications and all of that are the users. This is the API gateway. This is the Lambda where we have our business logic. And this is the Amazon DynamoDB where we have our data store. So I'll break each of those services together individually. So in this project, we're using three services. I've said the API gateway is our entry point. The Lambda is going to process our requests. I think that's it. That's the business logic, as I've said earlier. And the DynamoDB, that's where we have our data. So the API gateway is just like as I said earlier, that it's a fully managed service. So people can create REST API on API gateway, and you can even secure it, and you can scale it. So the API gateway is a fully managed service. It's not like you are the one creating your API yourself. You can create API yourself. There's some Python. You can create API yourself using Python and all of that. You install it on an EC2 instance. But when you're talking about API gateway, when you are having millions of API requests, API gateway can handle it. It can make it secure and also very, very fast. So we'll get there. And also, this guy is just like the front door, and we have the Lambda, which is like the brain. That's the processing logic. So it contains. So today I'll be using the Python code to define your API logic and all of that. How it when you want to get something, how it gets it. The API logic, the business logic there is what you want to do. If somebody gets, what do you expect the person to get at the end of the day? It's just like a function. So For example, now I want to delete in the function code. Maybe somebody plays an API to delete a particular movie title or movie ID. It's just a matter of, okay, in the code you put it that, okay, when the request part is late or something, you put it there and all of that. So I will go through the code as well, and it returns back to the API gateway based on the response. So then the last one is database. It's a DynamoDB. DynamoDB is a non-relational database. Database, we have two types majorly. Let's say we don't really have two types in entire, but major ones we all know. We have time series, we have the relational, we have the non-relational, and all of that. So, but majorly the ones people work with and all of that. We were talking about Grafana and all of that. Those are the time series one. But the relational one and the non-relational one. The non-relational one is DynamoDB. Non-relational means that it's just like a key value pair. It's not relational. It doesn't have ACID properties. I think we all know what is an ACID properties. So DynamoDB is a non-relational database. It is highly available. It is also a managed service by AWS as well. It is highly available. It's and highly scalable, and it's a key value pair. Key value pair means that, okay, John has two boys, two girls. Key value pair, more like a dictionary. So that's DynamoDB. Compared to your relational database, we all know those MySQL, SQL, Postgres, and all of that. Sure, you get. So where you have your primary key and all of that, everything relational together, and so that's there's a difference between them, and they store different kind of service. So what you can relate DynamoDB to your normal DB is MongoDB. MongoDB is also like a key value pair service, Redis. So those guys are non-relational database. Do you understand? So it's just, okay, maybe you just have your what we call the partition key, maybe your ID, and you have other properties. That's why they call it a non-relational. So you can't relate something to another. No, it doesn't happen on the non-relational database. So if you have a project, maybe you have a project that you are using MongoDB for, and you want to put it on AWS, you can just use DynamoDB as well. Just link everything up. So there is no open source services that is not on AWS. There is none. You still see it. You are talking about relational database, MySQL, and all of that. You see Amazon RDS or Amazon Aurora. So those guys are still there. You guys are there. So maybe if you are looking into specializing in database, you can now start moving deeper in all those guys. But for our use case, let's continue. So this is how it works. So the user sends a request via the API. The API forwards the request to the Lambda function. The Lambda functions query the DB based on the ID, based on your API. Once you are creating an API, you have a body. So based on what is on your body, based on what you ordered for, the response back will send back to you via the API gateway and to the user. So that's all. It's very easy. It's a simple project, but it gives us like a good understanding of how API works, how you can scale it, and how you can integrate it with other services as well. So this is just a copy of how you can just add a body. This is like a simple body now. For example, now if I want to do like a post, create a new movie to my API, this is how it looks like. So we're going to see it and all of that. So we've come to the end of the explanation and all of that. So let me go back to the architecture diagram. So another thing is, make sure you know how to draw your architecture very well. Make sure you understand your flow. There is no maybe you're an interview and all of that. They might ask you some architectural flow, and you must be able to explain to them very well what you want and the reason why you are doing this, the reason why this one is connected to this and all of that. So let's get started. Do we have any question at this point? Are we all good? Hello, is everyone there?
Yeah, hello. Yeah, I think it's fine. Yeah, you can continue.
Okay, all right. I only have one response from Abdul Malik. Any other one? Any other person with questions before we move to the
All right.
okay, all right, okay.
The I am rule. Why is it attached to the AWS Lambda?
So I
According
am
to
rule
this thing
is
that you just
yes, I am rule. You need it because it needs authorization. I am role is actually assigned to services because it's not something you can assign to users. For example, now Lambda we need to access DynamoDB. You need the access. Lambda needs to have access to API gateway. You need the access. Lambda needs to communicate with your CloudWatch so that you can have the logs. You know the access. You understand? So by default, you don't have access like that in AWS. You need to create the role and assign it to the user, assign it to the service. I don't know if that explains it right. Okay, good. So if there is no question, can you all see my screen? Or is it tiny? Is it small? But it's good, right?
yeah, I think it's fine.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, awesome. So now let's go to API gateway. We can start from API gateway because API gateway is just like one of the last things we're going to do. So the one from when we are starting, we're going to start with our Lambda. Let's go to the Lambda. I prefer using this guy. My region, which is EU West one. So let me just change my region to EU West one. And then that's island. So it comes to functions. So this is your functions. This is what I have. I have these guys before here. So this is what I have. So let's create a new function. So you can see different functions. You can auto from scratch, use a blueprint, container image, and all of that. So you can even create the interesting part. You can even create a Lambda as a container image. These guys they're really progressing. So it's an interesting service. So let's call it movies DB API, right? So our runtime, I told you that we have different runtime. You can use Node.js, you can use Python. So you can even support Java, but I'm using Python. So if you are good in .NET, maybe you want your function code is in .NET. You support .NET, support Java, support Ruby, and all of that. So if you want to now use like a customized runtime, you have everything here. But I'm using Python, so let me pick the Python function. We know this architecture what it means. And now let's come to the permission. You can see that create a new role with basic Lambda permissions. Use an existing new role. Create a new role from AWS policy templates. Now, for example, maybe you don't know what you want to do. You don't understand how IAM role works. You can create a new role with basic Lambda functions. But that will not give you what you want at the end of the day because it's just going to give you the basic. AWS doesn't know your architecture. It doesn't know what you want to achieve. Do you understand? So that's why you must understand the IAM role. What do you need to communicate? Now, based on our diagram here, you can see that this guy needs to have access to the API gateway. It should have access to DynamoDB. And also, it should also have access to CloudWatch, like the basic permission. The basic permission of the Lambda is access to CloudWatch so that you can see the logs. You'll see the request rate, the success rate, the error rate, and all of that using the CloudWatch logs. So let's create use an existing role or create a new role. So if you want to create a new role, create a new role from policy templates. No, we're not taking a new role. So we're not using the policy templates. These are the policy templates. You can see basic ones. AWS has even tried to just put everything in place. You can see simple microservice permission. So all these guys has been created for you, but let's do it ourselves. So let's create the role ourselves, and then let's go to IAM role. So let's create an IAM role. This is an IAM role. AWS service. Which service are we talking about? We're talking about Lambda. I get it. So Lambda wants to access what? Let's go to the next. So what are the policy we now need? What do we need to talk to? Number one, we need to talk to the DynamoDB. So let's do let's DynamoDB full access. Number one, API gateway invoke. API gateway invoke full access. Number two, and also basic Lambda. The basic Lambda just consists of the the CloudWatch monitoring and all of that. You can even try to expand it. Can you see? So this is the basic Lambda execution rule. You can see what is there. Create log group, create log stream, and put log events. You know, these guys are just CloudWatch logs. So let's pick this guy. I think those are the three guys we picked so far. Let's next. So you can see from this is our Lambda, you know, STS is going to assume the role. And what's it going to assume? It's going to assume all these three guys permissions policy. Let's give it a name. MovieDB API role. Are we together? MovieDB API role.
Yes.
Okay, so let's create the role. Yeah, good. So let's check. I think we have a lot of rows here. I think I've used some before. So these are row now. So let's go back to a Lambda. So use an existing row. You click on it. You check your cursor. It's not there yet. So you refresh here. Once you refresh, you have it here already. So once you have it here, so you create your function. All these things we are doing, we can use Terraform to do it. I'll keep saying it. Everything we do here, we can use Terraform to do it. But let's just have it here for now. So this is how the function looks like. This is where you have your test, you have your monitor. This is where you have your CloudWatch logs and all. This is where you have your configuration, your alias, your version, and all of that. Maybe you have version 1. Application has version 1, version 1.1, version 1.2, and all of that. So you have it here. So now let's go to the code. So you already have it's going to create this. Every Python code you create is going to create a default Python code for you. This is the default Python code. So if anybody trigger this Python guy, if I deploy it now and I trigger it, and then all you are going to see is hello from Lambda. That's what this is, like a default one. But we're not using this guy. We're using our own code. So let me just copy the code. I have the code here already. So now let me share my screen. Should I share my screen? Let me share my this thing. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Can you see my VS Code channel, VS Code dashboard? I don't know. Can you all see my VS Code this thing, right?
Yes, you can.
Yes.
So this is the Proto 3 is just an SDK in AWS that you can use to interact with. The Python SDK you can use to interact with services on AWS. So this is the Proto 3 you import. Don't worry if you don't really understand Python very well, but it's just like a demo. This is the client. The client, you know, we need to talk to a database. So this is, you are calling a client. You're calling the DynamoDB. So we will need to go to the DynamoDB and create a table called movies, because this is what you can say that we're able to call DynamoDB here, and we're able to call the movies. The movies is just like the table. So we can, this is the function, lambda handler. You have the event and you have the context. So this is now the API routes. If you want to delete a movie, when the event consists of this, when the event route key is this, it should delete the movie. Do you understand? Can you see table.delete item? So when it is this an conditional clause, if the route key, your API route key /movie / maybe the ID of the movie, it should come to the table and delete the item. What's going to delete the item? You should delete the key with the ID with the parameters that was initiated the client request. So same thing as well, it's all like a conditional clause. Else if you use like a get /movie / the ID, you should get the item and all of that. If you want to get all movies, get it through here. So this is based on this function, this conditional function. This is what we're going to use to create our routes on the API gateway. But I'm just trying to take us through the code. You can see all these are just like conditional clause. So if the path is www.something/movies, so you should just put table.put item. Put item is like create something. You understand? So put item and put based on the requirement the users has put there, put and add it and all of that. So this is just something, an except function to take in your exceptions. Maybe when you have unsupported routes and all of that. Maybe you don't put the correct format. You put maybe a different format entirely. And this is all. And then at the end of the day, you get your body response, your status code, and all of that. So this is all. This is just like we are querying the DB API. So I'm just taking you through the code. So let me copy it and proceed. And let me.
Hello, Suleiman.
Yeah, hello. I can hear you.
Yeah,
So you
yeah,
can
yeah.
just.
Sorry, please, I have
Okay.
a small question here. So for those of us that try to follow along with you, how do we get this?
Okay, you can go ahead. Go ahead. Okay.
Yeah, I said for those of us that try to follow along with you, how do we get this code?
Yeah, I'm going to share it. No, don't worry. I'm going to share it with you. I'll share it. It's going to be part of I'll put it on my GitHub and I'll share the link with you. Anything
I mean, like
do,
right now.
Right now, right? Okay.
Yeah, because I'm also doing it while you yes.
Okay. Okay. So let me put it on the group chat thing. Or let me put it on the WhatsApp group. Coming info message. Oh, I think Mukhtar has a question. Sorry, I didn't see the question before. I think this guy has a maximum number of messages you can input. I don't know. Yeah, that's a minimum number of message you can input. Let me see what I can do. Let me put it on my GitHub. I'll just share the GitHub with you guys. I think all of us have access to this GitHub profile, right? This cloud network training. So let me add a file. I don't have a WhatsApp here on this thing. I think GitHub is fine. GitHub is fine. Let's create a new file. Let's call it movies db.py. I prefer this actually. So commit changes. Commit, put it here. Yeah, interesting. So I have it here. So let me just share you the URL. I think you have this URL already. You can share it with you. So you just go to it and try to clone the repo and put it there. Is that fine, Abdul?
Oh, yes, this is fine. Yeah, thank you.
All right, welcome. So now this is the Lambda. You can see that this, we have all these things. So let me save. I'm going to save. So save means you can't see save. So you you just need to use deploy. So deploy means you want to save. So click on deploy. So after deploying, you're updating the function. So now we need to do two things. Now we need to create our DynamoDB, number one. So let's create our DynamoDB. So DynamoDB is very straightforward to create. So don't make a mistake. Ensure that the name of the table you use, and also it must be in the same region. You know, my API gateway is in EUS1, so you must take note of all those things. So at the end of the day, maybe you will now want to create it in a different region. You won't be able to communicate with it actually. So let's pick island. So you click on tables, create a table. What's the name? Movies. As the name. So what's the partition key? The primary key is going to be the ID. You know, ID is like a primary key. You know, ID is like a unique values to all the guys, and it's a string. So let's that's all. That's the basic settings you need for DynamoDB. You're not doing anything very big like that. So you create your table. So you can just take it for a while for the tables to create. Are we all together? Do you understand?
Yes.
Okay, so let me try to zoom. So we can all see these guys, right? So our table has been created, our movies tables has been created, and these are all the features and all of that. So after this guy, let's go to the main topic. Let's go to API gateway. So let's change the region as well based on what we said. Okay, John, you have your hand up.
Yeah. Can you please go back to that Lambda function? I'm just trying to see the connection, the DB connection to the DynamoDB.
Yeah, this is it. Yeah, this is it, yeah.
Can you highlight it, please? Okay. You have seen it. Thanks.
Okay. All right. So now we don't have an API. So let's create an API. So we don't have an API area. So let's create an API. So create an API. What type of API are we creating? We are creating an HTTP API. It's more like a REST API as well. So, and it works with Lambda and HTTP packets. So let's build. So because we are building it, we are not importing. We are not importing what we have there. We are building our own. So let's put it our name. Let's give it our name. Movies DB API, right? So integration, what are we integrating? We're integrating things to it, right? We're integrating Lambda. I get it. Are we together? So we're integrating Lambda. You can see that you need to pick the region, EUS1. You pick the function, so to automatically see the function itself. So you pick the MovieDB function. Are we together? So assuming you want to integrate, so there's some instance where maybe you have a function for for catalog, you have a function for discount, you have a function, different types of function. You just integrate them like this under this guy. So that's how it works. So assuming I have another function, I can also integrate it with HTTP, maybe like a server or something. HTTP, maybe a server that's using about 80. I can integrate it with it. So we're using Lambda. So let's put Lambda. Next. This next is interesting part. So we now have our different thing, right? We have based on the function logic we've written already. The first one, we have the get movies. I'm not taking it offhand though. I'm taking it based on what is here. Or let's start from delete. You can say delete is delete movies ID. Let's start from the beginning so that it won't be confusing. So let's go back here. Let's start with delete, right? So maybe he wants to delete. So this is where we configure our route. Slash ID. I get in. So what's going to be the target? Our Lambda is the target. Okay, so this is the delete. So we had another route. Let's come to our code. What's the second route we have here? We have get movies. Maybe we want to get a particular movie with its ID. So we just do it like this. We do a get slash movies slash ID. So what's the integration target? It's still the same Lambda that we choose. Do you understand? Let's add another route. What's the other route that we have on our code? We have get movies ID. I think that's all. That's this one. We have also get. Maybe we want to get all movies. It's going to be slash movies only. So come here, click on get slash movies only. And the integration target. So that's why, for example, now, if this is how everything is just trying to add up. Assuming you have get, maybe you want them, okay, get discount slash discount. You can then put them in the right Lambda function. So that's why I said this API gateway and Lambda is just so very, very, very interesting, because based on your resource parts, you can just direct them instead of having your engineers rule and all of that, going through that stress. You can easily use this guy, point them based on the resource parts, point them directly to the integration target. So yeah, Malik, you have your answer.
Yes, the integration target, those are like the compute
Lambda, exactly, the compute service.
So if you have like different microservices, you want to route to different of those services, you get them there too.
You get them there, yeah, exactly. We've done integration before in the previous page here, where we had integration that wants to do exactly. So let's do the last one. Last one should be a post. When we want to create the posts, let's see what does the post looks like. Maybe slash movies. You can see the post slash movies. So when the route key is post slash movies, now let's slash movies, and you put the integration parts. Yeah, are we good? Please, I want all of us to. I want this class to be very engaging. Are we following together? Okay, you can proceed to the question.
So for the integration, we can integrate multiple Lambda functions, right?
Yes, we can.
Instead of just the MovieDB API, we can integrate others that we've created. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right, thanks.
So we've done our routing. So you can have as many routes as you want. The route here, just put the specific parts that you want it to match and all of that. So let's click on next. This one is you can give it a this staging name is that maybe you want different staging. You want stage 1, staging 1, staging 2, and all of that. So you can just put the default one. So these are all we have. So let's Let's create. So it's creating this Lambda. So let's just wait for a while for it to populate all the services. So you can see that there is an invoke URL. You can see that I have an invoke URL, right? So this is the URL I'll be working with. I get it. So this is my URL now. So this is the URL I will need to be called. So now this URL, you can now map it to your own. Maybe you have a custom domain names. You can now map this URL to your own domain name using an alias or CNAME. You know, you can use an alias, and you have an alias or CNAME. So when we get to Route 53, we're going to discuss about that. But you can domain name access association. You can associate your domain name into this guy so that it's going to be, for example, you want to put your own company name instead of using, or you have a custom domain name, you can add domain name. So the API will be the domain name instead of using this AWS and all these guys. Maybe you don't like this guy, the way these names look like and all of it. So you might not like this invoke URL. You just want something very easy that your customer will know. Maybe https sulaiman.api.com. So I can create a domain name, integrate my domain name to this guy, and that's what it's going to be. So now let me just put this guy, let me put it on my browser. So you can see message not found, message not found, nothing is there. Nothing is there, right? So now this is my function. Now let's go here. You'll see that monitor. If you monitor it, you see, because I call this API once, you'll see one. Okay, there is no data yet, but I think maybe it's coming up. Let me just wait. Let's wait. Let's refresh. No data is available yet. Let's just take it. Might take some time to come up. But you can see that when I access the API URL, nothing is reachable, right? So that's why I now need to okay, let me create something. Let me do something now. Let me put something on the database. Let's create okay, you have your question, you have your hands up, right?
Yeah. Can we use the developer to see the query and response?
There is nothing here for now. So it's advised to use a REST API client. Your REST API client, you can use a call, you can use Postman, or you can use any REST clients that you have. But typically, if you put this guy here, you can't. You can only see all your message, your content of your API. You can't see. This guy is just like doing a get. A default Chrome browser is just like a get. Do you get? So
yeah.
Now that takes us to what we I don't know. Some of you might have might have via Postman. Some of you can use a call. Some of you might use any REST API client and all of that. So I have on my VS Code here, I have a REST API client. You can just install an extension, REST API. Let me present something else. Okay. Let me stop sharing and share again. Can you see my this thing?
Yeah, we can see.
So I have a file here. So this is you can come to your extension. This is called REST clients. Instead of, you can use a Postman. You can use a Postman. You can also use a call as well. But you can just easy thing. But most developers use Postman. So if you have a Postman, you can use Postman as well. So this is the client. You can just search for REST clients, and is the first one, REST clients, and you just create a file. and you put it there. Let me edit this. Slash movies. So this is my API part. So let me put the ID. Let's use one. My ID is one. Maybe so this is the movie I want to do a post request to my API. I want to post it. So a post request is like you are creating a new item to the database. So this is the API part, and this is the body of what you want to create, the ID, the title of the movie, the year, and the rating as well. I get it. So what I need to do is just click on send requests. So you can see the response, I get 200 okay, and added movie. So this is like the response I put in my backend code that, okay, this is the response I want to see if I call my API. So now let's go. I just call this movie now, Dark Knight. So let's go to the database. So if I come to my database now, you would see that so this is my database. Let's explore items. So there's nothing here before, right? So let's refresh it. So you can see that I have something here already. I have ID, I have rating, and the title is Dark Knight. And this is the year. So I've been able to push to my database now, directly using my API requests. So maybe I want to query it. I can query with that as well. So this is just how the API works. So if I come to my Lambda function, I refresh it, I'm going to see my success rates. Let me try and refresh this. So I don't know, this is not pulling up the lots. Let me just use lower time. So you can see that my success rate is 100%. I get it. So this is my success rate is 100%. You can see one green here. One green means that success rate 100% because my API works. So assuming I did not do a proper one. Maybe I did not the API. Maybe we have and this is also the duration as well. Can you see the duration is 403 milliseconds? So with this total concurrent execution, just one execution that I had, there's no throttles, and we only have one invocations. This is the only one invocations we have. So all these guys, you'll be able to see all details about your API from these CloudWatch logs. So you must be able to read CloudWatch logs very well and understand where it is going. So now let me try again. Let me do something again. Let me do a post request. Let me put another movie there. So maybe let's push. Which movie can we push? I'm coming. Let's put Avengers. So you can actually use any REST API client that you want. Postman, anyone. You can use anyone. Let's use Avengers. Avengers. I don't know the year the Avengers was done. Let me put 1 year there. Did anyone know the year Avengers was running for 2010? So the year is 9. The rating is 1990. 9.9, like almost very 10. So now let's push it. Let's send the request. So you can see that I've been able to add my Avengers. I've been able to add this guy. So this just how it works. So now let me do like get. I want to get all movies that I have. So if I want to get, I don't need a body again, because get is just something, don't need anything. So all I just need is let me just do a send request. You can see this is my get, because I changed the method. Method was post. Post is when you want to create something, and get is when you want to create something. Get is when you want to get or retrieve data. So when I do a get, this is my API gateway, API URL. This is my URI, and the movie part is there, and I did a get. I got 100, and I could get all my movies here. So maybe I want to now get with the movie ID. Let's say I want to get with the movie ID. I have 2 here. So let's send the request and see. So can you see? I was able to get it based on the request. So you can see I was able to get with 2. I put my ID as 2, and I was able to get the movie Avengers, yeah, and all of that. So for example, I want to delete a movie.
Yeah, Sulaiman.
Okay, you have a question?
Yeah, the JSON input here down there. I mean, it doesn't affect the
it doesn't affect, because get doesn't expect anybody. Doesn't expect anybody, and it's based on the formats of your listing of your API. Yeah. So I want to delete, and if I want to delete, based on our function, the delete part is movies/the ID. So let me place, I want to delete Avengers, or I want to delete the Star Knight #1. So maybe I want to delete it #1. So you can see that if I run this now, deleted movie with ID1, I've been able to delete the movie now. So if I go back to my database, I will only see 1. Or if I even do a get, let me do a get and get all movies that I have here. You can use Postman. Postman is very interesting than this. I just feel like using this.
Yeah, Postman is very GUI friendly.
So this is movies, and you just get, you can see. I want to get all the movies. I think I've deleted 1 already. So just send requests. So this is the only thing I have. So the only thing I have here is what is only Avengers. I've already deleted the ID1. So this is how you update, you delete, you post, you get. We've tried to show all different methods of the API. Now let's try to do something. Let's change this part. Let's see what will happen. Let's change this URI to something different. Let's say, the ID part that was created was movies. Let's move movies-db. Let's see the error we'll get. Let's do a get. Can you see? So this issue is coming from the client 404, not found. So this is like a client error, because it's likely an error from the client, and it's from the part, because you don't have any part that's called movies-db. So you need to put the right URI in your API and all of that. So this is what you'll be getting, and let's see our execution. Let's check this guy. So from this, so if I refresh this guy, let me refresh my console page. Okay, this CloudWatch is, you can see invocations. I think I had 2 invocations here. I had 1 here. I had 2. What's the response? These are the response I'm having. So I think there was an error. We have only 1 error at which time. Yeah, there's an error here. So based on based on the 404 error that we got. So which one trotted, not trotted? How many execution do we have? Each time we have 1. At this time we add 1. We also add 1 here. We also add 1. So all this, you'll be able to see and this is your logs, recent invocation. So maybe it's good to be working with logs most times. So if you want to work with your log, you'll be able to see what was queried and all of that. So let's go to the API gateway.
Hello,
So this
is the source ID of the caller, the source IP of the caller, is it part of the logs?
No, you can't say it. You can't say it on the logs because you are not the one. Your caller, it's the API gateway that is calling the Lambda. So anything, the only way you will see your own logs is on the if you are doing monitoring or you are logging it, also has a monitor. So if you are doing a monitor for I didn't enable the login. So if you enable login on this for this, you'll be able to see your API requests coming in from the client and from the users to the API gateway. So it's the API gateway that will now initialize, because from this guy you can see that it's showing that it's coming from the service. So it's coming from the API gateway.
I thought
Yeah,
you
it's
were
not coming from there.
okay.
So I think that's all. Let me just refresh this guy. Refresh it. So so we only have 2 here. So if you want to update your table and all of that, so this is the same way all APIs works, especially if you're using AWS. So this is just the same way. Maybe you have an application or you have anything, or so you can maybe you want to create more routes. This is where you put it. You can create more routes as well. You can still update it, create more routes. And maybe you have another service or microservice function that you want to input. Integration, I only have one integration here. You can see AWS Lambda, Lambda itself. So if you want to manage your integration, you can create a new integration here and create a new integration here, maybe an HTTP URI, Amazon SQS, and all of that, STEM functions and all of that. So you can all do this. Authorization, so you can create an authorization and add it to the API as well. So because of time, I think this is where I'm going to going to stop today. So I don't know if there is any question we have. I'm going to share the slide at the end of the today as well. I'm going to share it on the group. So it's something we can just try to practice on our own. And if maybe you have a blocker on anything, you can just put it on the group, and we'll be here to guide and support each other.